sit down with your wife,
Yeah.
talk to her,
Yeah.
and say, babe, I want to be the best husband and the best father I can possibly be.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that I come home, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, and that's carrying over to the family.
Yep.
That's not what I want. So what I'd like to do is stop by the park, take a 15, 20-minute stroll, get my mind clear so I can come back and be here and be present for you and the kids.
Yeah.
It'd be hard pressed to find a woman that's not going to want that,
Yeah.
and desire it.
Yeah.
But either way, as the leader of the house, you got to take it. Hey guys, do you ever have those moments in life where you just feel overwhelmed, stressed out, or like anxiety just takes over? Well, heck, we all have. And if that happens to you, well, you're in luck, because today I have Master Coach Mark Smith with us, and we're going to talk just about that. First, we're going to talk about, hey, why does this happen to us? And then secondly, we're going to talk about how do we get ourselves out of that so we can maintain that powerful state, that grounded state. When we say the powerful man, we're talking about a man that's powerful from the inside. He's grounded. He has control. Is he perfect? No, but he knows how to get back on track on a regular basis. So if you're interested, then stay tuned. Mark, thanks for being here, bud.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm excited. So right now we are at the TPM Ranch as for the people listening to this, and we are running the Alpha Rising. So the Alpha Rising, for those that don't know, if you go through the activation method or the one of our other introductory programs, you have the opportunity of going into a 1-year mastermind that we call the Brotherhood or the Inner Circle, depending on where you want to go. And in that, in the second year, there is a life-changing event called the Alpha Rising. And that event is happening right now at the TPM Ranch. And I was able to pull you literally aside quickly to get this recorded. So I appreciate all you're doing here for the men. I know from the feedback that I've gotten from the volunteers, men that have actually been through the program, they're telling me it's a fantastic group and that you and the other coaches are doing an amazing job. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that acknowledgement, Doug, and it is really important. And I think it ties into the topic today. We'll weave it in.
We'll find a way. Well, all of us have those moments, right, where things just seem to be caving in on us. We got overwhelm. Our to-do list is too long. We have demands from our company, our work that we do. We have demands from our family, demands maybe from our community or volunteer positions, and then, of course, demands from ourselves. And they all seem to pile on at once. And it's how we react to those that really allows us to decide, is this going to be overwhelm or something else?
Well, as I said, we'd weave it in, and here we go.
Yeah.
So working with the Alpha Rising, 4 coaches, 2 volunteers, there's a lot going on, a lot of perspectives, points of view, opinions, different ways of thinking, different priorities. And it's very easy to allow that to cloud our minds.
Yeah.
I was speaking to some guys on a pack call in the Brotherhood earlier on. We get to choose the space that we occupy and how others occupy our space. So I think that's a primary premise to consider, as opposed to just allowing everything to come at us and feel like we're powerless.
Yeah, I think that's the key, right? When everybody experiences overwhelm or has experienced it. Everybody has probably experienced anxiety and stress. Those are natural things. And what I've learned being a business owner in my early 20s, starting a company, and then, no shock that I'm not in my 20s anymore, having done so many, many times over.
Yeah.
Overwhelm happens a lot, right? The to-do list never goes down.
Nope.
You'll have, in business, you'll have sales drop. You have leads have an issue. Maybe operations or delivery or fulfillment is an issue. Legal, people suing you. All of these things can come at you, and Murphy's Law, right?
Yeah.
They come at you all at the same time. And over the years, I've learned to look at overwhelm much differently, and that's made all the difference in the world. I'm curious for you, Mark. One is, do you experience those things, being a Jedi master that you are? Two is, what are you seeing from the men? How is this manifesting in their reality?
Yeah, firstly, Jedi Master is something that mastery is something that I'm working towards. And as I was saying, dealing with egos, dealing with complexity, dealing with multiple demands is something that I think overwhelms most of us at some point.
Yeah.
I've just recently had an experience where I've been tested hugely around administration. and finding and sharing and signing and scanning and emailing documents, and repetitively so. So
I know that feeling.
yeah, right. So there are a few things that that have been happening in my life that I've chosen to create, and yeah, the overwhelm is something that's very easy to submit to and allow it to wash over us and pull us out of balance. So something that we often speak about in TPM is masculine energy, and Colton and I were just speaking about that, funnily enough. The masculine energy aspect allows us to create and set boundaries, and the perception that I have is that it's about space. So the space around me, and overwhelm for me looks like something washing over me, and that means that I'm not taking ownership of my space, and I'm not taking ownership of how I manage or command my space, or ask for my space to be respected. And so that for me is an important aspect, because if we're unconscious in that area, then people will take advantage. My wife would just send demands as soon as I walk in the house. And so one of the examples of creating space is that I made an agreement with her. Give me 15 minutes. That's all I need to wash my face, to put down my stuff, to take a breath, to potentially take a cold shower, and then reset myself and choose how I'm going to enter the family environment.
Yeah, I like that. When I think of overwhelm, right? You said washing over you. When someone's overwhelmed, they're on their heels, they're back foot, right? And they're in reaction mode is what comes up for me when I think of overwhelm. You're reacting to things. Same thing with anxiety a lot of times. And a lot of times those reactions are to external forces, right? Not one's inside. And so men, and all people, women do too, but we'll use men in this context. Men can find themselves focusing on that outside, just consistently reacting. And I've found one way to overcome that is to attack it. Right? Head on. Get on the balls of your feet and go for it. And that momentum starts to pick up, and then overwhelm starts to become opportunity, which sounds cliche, right? Just to hear somebody say it. And I can imagine someone listening to this that's overwhelmed going, no, Doug, you don't get it. I've got all these things going on you don't understand. And you do have all these things going on. It's the choice, right? It's the choice of how you want to look at those. And the kind of the old analogy, or I don't know if it's analogy or metaphor, is how do you eat an elephant? Right, one bite at a time.
I think that there's a number of things that happen in terms of overwhelm, and one is it affects our nervous system. So before we know it, we've been triggered. My personal example is around plumbing. So plumbing happens, dirty water, the pipe leaks, whatever it is, would immediately send me into feeling like I'm out of control. And then I'd end up throwing wrenches, and using expletives. There'd be a few curse words. And so I think that the challenge with overwhelm and anxiety is that we tend to look for a quick fix or an out. And that can be yelling. It can be, as I just shared, it can be medication. It can be numbing. There are all sorts of things. So we look for a fast out, as opposed to what you said, which is face it head on. And I've found, and I work with a lot of guys, as you know, and I've found that when the guys turn to face what it is they're challenged with, slaying the dragon becomes possible. And then on the other side, there is peace and there is possibility, and there can be greater perspective.
I mean, we just finished tax season here in the U.S. by the time this comes out, and a lot of guys get overwhelmed with that, right? Because they've created the monster in their head. You said the dragon, for example. A lot of times the anxiety especially comes from the fear of what's going to happen, the fear of the unknown. Right? So there could be anxiety and overwhelm in relationships. Do I have that conversation with my wife? Do I talk to my business partner or the person I'm trying to get a contract from? And then they create this story in their head of all that's going to happen. And as a result, those things are, again, external of themselves, right? That flows back to them as overwhelm. And that overwhelm turns to fear, anxiety, some people anger. Depending on how they want to react to it. And for a lot of people, we talked about this off camera, this is a good time to bring it up, I think. For a lot of people, that overwhelm sucks their energy.
Oh, yeah.
And then they're drained, and then they don't have the energy to do the thing that's causing the overwhelm.
Yeah. And that's when relationships and businesses get fractured because of the reactivity and the prickliness, right? Yeah. And I recognize that in myself. When I've had overwhelm, I become a stickler, right? Because I want to get things back into control within the frame.
Yep.
So I become very pedantic around things have got to be like this, or I don't have control. And so, a lot of it is, for me, the illusion of control, right? We think we have control, and being willing to accept this is something that and take ownership, right? This is something I've created. Mm-hmm. Okay. My bad. I did this to myself.
Totally.
How am I going to respond to it? What help do I need? What resources do I have? And what's the clear outcome that I'm looking for? And what's the pathway to that outcome? If we can give ourselves, again, the space to consider all of those things, and we take charge as men, as leaders, as business owners, take charge of the environment that we've created and the relationships or the situations, it gives it a whole new picture because we no longer become victims.
Oh, I love that. There's two key points that I want the guys to get out of what you just said. If you're feeling overwhelmed, anxiety, stress, any of those emotions, really any negative emotion, take a step back and give yourself space to look at the landscape in front of you.
Yep.
And the second thing you said, Mark, which I think is so important, is take ownership.
Yeah.
Ownership of what's going on, but also ownership of what you're making it mean, right? Because that's a key thing. Mm-hmm. I had a funny thing today on Slack, actually, which we use for internal communication, as you're aware. There were two gentlemen who I won't name, and I had asked them to take a course. Okay. And so they obtained the course this morning and said, "Hey, Doug, we got the course." I said, "Awesome." I go, "I think I can get through this course in 2 days. How long are you guys going to take?"
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh, you must have all the time in the world." And I just replied with a Giphy, because that's how I like to reply to people. Mm-hmm. It's just like, it's one of those pictures, but I'm like, we must rearrange priorities.
Yeah.
Right. So, and you said this off camera again, which I thought was so beautiful, Mark. It's about priorities. It's energy, right?
Yeah.
What are we choosing to focus on?
Yeah.
We all have 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Then why do some people seem to get done in a day what others seem to get done in a month? Right.
Yeah. Priorities. Priorities are the antidote to distractions.
Yes.
I think. And one of the things that I'm very capable of doing is distracting myself. And I can give you many examples. There'll be things that I know I need to do and I can do, and I've got. My wife always says I try and fit 2 hours into one.
Yeah.
So I create my own pressure. And then the thing becomes, do I take care of this? Do I, so I'll give you an example. I didn't bring my driver's license with me to the US. So I've got a digital copy, which I can then laminate and I could present to somebody and it'll be my driver's license. But I've got other things that are much more of a priority. That's only in case I need to drive somebody's vehicle and, so forth. Yeah. But the fact is that I've got this thing that I can solve really quickly, so I think I'll just get it done now. And what happens is that those small things just get crammed into a space where if I was to be conscious and strategic, I'd put those things aside, put the bigger things in place, the big rocks, right? We speak about big rocks because we work with EOS and prioritize those. And then those small things seem to either we could do it, don't do it, or delegate it, right? We can give them to somebody else, or we can take care of it at a time when it's appropriate, or it's not important.
Well, I think that's the key. So one strategy that I use and we teach the men is before bed or before the end of your workday, whichever you choose, is write down the top 3 things that I need to get done. And then I attack those first thing in the morning when your energy is the highest, because those little things do creep in. And we're all like that, Mark, where I'll just do this little thing real quick. I'll just check Slack real quick. And we task switch.
Yeah.
We lose so much time in that task switching. That creates the overwhelm. Yep. And then there's that thing that you wanted to get done, you don't get done. So you get down on yourself. You beat yourself up. Well, I beat myself up, I should say.
Yeah.
And then upon that, we also get to the point where I think all of us, you don't get the thing done, so you feel bad. Now you're overwhelmed and stressed because you had something else planned the next day that this thing's creeping into.
Right. Yeah, and the other thing you said earlier on was that it's external, right? So we often feel we don't have control because it comes from an external source. It could be, a legal requirement or whatever it happens to be. And going back to the priorities, if it is a priority, then we get to make time for it and prioritize it and put it in a place and a space which is going to be possible for us in our calendars and our schedule. The challenge with that is that when we make agreements with ourselves, we often, I'll just move it a little bit later. And so a top tip for me is to keep our agreements with ourselves. If I put a meeting in myself to handle a particular item, instead of task switching or pushing it and creating chaos, to just handle it, right? Take it head on.
Yeah, I think it's critical. One thing that happens, I'll talk about two things, but one thing that happens to men or anybody really, again, is when they're feeling stressed and overwhelmed, their breath becomes shallow and they don't breathe as fluidly. And I'm saying that to the guys because you can catch yourself doing this, but also there's an antidote. So if you find yourself with anxiety, you find yourself stressed, you find yourself overwhelmed, to your previous point, take a step back, right? Own your space, but then also do some breath work, right? Do some basic box breathing, do fire breath, whatever kind of breath work you want. The key is to get deep diaphragmic breaths coming in, and that'll allow you that relaxation state, and you can actually see the picture much better, the playing field.
Yeah, because if you're not breathing, you're not thinking.
No.
Your brain is not working optimally if you're not supplying it with oxygen. Your heart rate's up, and we're in fight or flight.
Yep, 100%.
So,
and I think what guys get to understand, because a lot of men that listen to this show or watch this pod, a lot of them are married businessmen.
Yeah.
And guys get to understand, I know this was for me. Aaron complained about this a lot for me. So it was one time in Santa Barbara, I owned 3 companies that I was trying to run, which wasn't a good idea, but I did it. I've done it a few times.
Yeah.
I'm a slow learner, Mark.
Me too.
And so when I'd be overwhelmed and stressed, I would bring that energy home. And it come to find out for a woman is the least sexy energy. Not the least. I think being a victim is the least. Yeah, but it's a hard energy for women. It's not a sexy energy.
No.
So here I come as this guy conquering business. I'm playing sport. Like I feel really good about all the check boxes, but I'm stressed and overwhelmed. Come home. I want to pour a drink, sit on the couch or relax with her or go for a walk or something. But until I release that energy, hence us having the alpha decompression.
Yeah.
And gentlemen, if you're in the program, do your alpha decompression. I brought that energy home, and my wife would say, "Oh yeah, I could tell before you opened the door, I could feel that energy coming off of you, and it stressed me out, made me anxious."
Yeah,
and as you can imagine, you have 2 anxious or stressed people. That's not a recipe for great sex.
It's not the recipe for anything great.
No, it's not.
So speaking from the energetic point of view, we always say that your energy walks into the room before you.
Yep.
And so people do feel that. We are magnetic kind of creatures, so we feel the attraction or the repulsion. And the repulsion comes from that kind of energy. And if think of a toddler, you've got young children.
Yep.
A 3 or 4-year-old in play is a beautiful thing, and a 3 or 4-year-old in chaos is like a Tasmanian devil, right? It can be really difficult to deal with.
I dealt with it last night. So
okay, so it's fresh.
I want to buy you a gift. Look, if your marriage is struggling, and let's be real, every marriage struggles at some point. But yours is struggling where you've lost that love, admiration, respect. I want to help you. I want to buy you a copy of the book that I wrote, A Man's Guide on How to Save Your Marriage Without Talking About It. In here, I've distilled over 8 years of programs that we've developed at TPM to help men just like you save their marriages without talking about it. There's no fluff, no BS. It's an action plan that you can start using today to actually save your marriage and bring that love and respect back into your family, back into your house. You deserve it. Look, all I ask is you pay the postage, you pay the shipping, I'll buy the book for you. That way you can take massive action today. Click the link or find it in the bio and get your copy now.
And I've got a granddaughter, and I experienced her, and so it's really, really easy, even though there's a huge amount of love for the person or whatever it is, or respect for the person if it's business, etc. It's really easy to get caught up in the chaos and the reaction to the energy, and yeah, that is something which trips many, many guys up. Because they're not taking ownership, going back to the original point. And so decompressing for me is vital. Salt water in the ocean is one of my keys, as you know. Riding on two wheels, whether it be a mountain bike or a motorcycle, that's important. Moving our bodies, getting grounded in the earth. A lot of guys say to me, and I haven't got time for a decompression. I've got a guy said on the call today, I've got a 6-minute drive from work to home and I walk into 5 kids and this, that, and the other. How do I decompress? Well, you're choosing the drive being 6 minutes, right?
I've had this conversation with guys before too. Yeah.
So, and I remember conversations going way back to years ago where guys have said to me, that changed everything when I decided that actually, I can stop on the way home from work. I can go for a walk in a park. I can go and do a meditation by a lake or whatever and just center myself and then enter the next space or the family, etc. It makes a huge difference.
But I know because I've had this conversation 100 times with men.
Yeah.
But my wife is home alone with the kids, and she's not going to want me. She wants me home as soon as possible to relieve her, Mark. Mm-hmm. What do you say to that?
Well, as soon as possible is up to you.
Yes. Also, what I tell the guys is, look, sit down with your wife.
Yeah.
Talk to her.
Yeah.
And say, babe, I want to be the best husband and the best father I can possibly be.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that I come home, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, and that's carrying over to the family.
Yep.
That's not what I want. So what I'd like to do is stop by the park, take a 15, 20-minute stroll, get my mind clear so I can come back and be here and be present for you and the kids.
Yeah.
It'd be hard pressed to find a woman that's not going to want that, and desire it.
Yeah.
But either way, as the leader of the house, you got to take it, right?
Yeah.
Ideally, it's a cooperative, mutually agreed upon thing.
Yeah.
And there's just sometimes you got to say, hey, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm a human being living my life.
Yeah. And there are things that maybe she wouldn't even notice. And it's in our heads, she needs me and I'm in reaction mode because I want to rescue or I want to show up or whatever it is. Yeah. And she won't notice if you leave work 5 minutes early and you take an extra 10 minutes or whatever to compose yourself. And as you said, the energy that you bring in affects her. Yeah. And she knows it and she doesn't like it, and you're not getting intimacy from her as a result of bringing that frenetic or chaotic or overwhelmed energy in. So she may not agree. She may say, well, how dare you? Well, let's try it out. Let's see what happens, what's different if I do this for 10 days, or I'm going to do a 30-day stretch of making sure. And then you tell me whether you prefer this or you prefer me being home earlier.
Yeah. Well, I think also there becomes a point where it's a need, right? Like you don't ask your wife for permission to go to the bathroom, right? No. You need to go. And it's like we all agree, may I please eat? Like, right? Yeah. So this to me, we look at stress, overwhelm, and anxiety, it kills people.
Yeah.
So it becomes a need. Like I need to do this.
Yeah.
And obviously have communication, because if you've been coming home for 10 years at 5 p.m., whatever time, and all of a sudden you're coming home at 6 p.m., there might be some disruption of expectations. So you want to communicate those expectations and see what's happening. I know for me, what still comes up, I still battle it, is the feeling of guilt, right? I need every free moment I have, because I travel so much and do the work that we do, I should be with my family. So the moment I can be up there with the kids playing, I savor every moment. Yeah. And I got to have a conversation with myself about that guilt. Where did that guilt come from? Working through that, but also going, okay, I get to recharge Doug. I get to recharge my batteries so that I can spill in and pour into the rest of the family.
I have a piece of wisdom I learned many years ago. guilt is a useless emotion.
It really is.
Doesn't serve you, doesn't serve your kids, doesn't serve anybody.
Nope.
Right?
Oh, 100%. I cognitively get it.
Yeah, I know you do.
But that is the overwhelming emotion that comes up for me.
Yeah.
So when I'm working long hours or doing something, I got a gentleman that wants to get on a call with me, which I want to do.
Yeah.
But then I also have kids baseball. I've got
Yeah.
swimming. I got a birthday party coming up for kids.
Yeah.
So there's those, again, we come back to priorities.
Yeah.
It can feel overwhelming because there's so many options for us as coaches. We've got 100 men that would love to talk to us at any given moment or more, which is a beautiful blessing,
Yeah.
a beautiful blessing.
Yeah.
And we also got to walk the walk by being great husbands, great fathers, great partners, and doing our stuff as well.
Yeah. Yeah, there are options and probabilities, right, as well. So when we give ourselves too many options, that also creates overwhelm.
Yeah.
So when it comes to selecting, what's coming forward. When you're going on vacation, you choose where you're going to go, how many nights, how you're going to travel there, all of those kinds of things. And yet we feel somehow in life that we don't have the choices to plan and prepare and set out those whatever. Whether it's a dinner, whether it's be time with the family, whatever it is, we don't necessarily think about it in the same terms, and yet we do for vacation. So why not set the intention and the obligation potentially, or the expectation, make it clear, explicit, and then make agreements around when I can show up and when I will be available. And you were speaking about children. The children will remember the quality of the time, not the quantity of the time that we spend with them.
Yep, 100%.
Right? So we don't have to feel guilty, because when we're with them, if we're completely dialed in, they're loving it, and that's what they'll remember in their lives.
This is totally tangential, but it reminds me of a video clip someone shared with me. And it was a dad who was a great golfer. He may have been a pro, but his son was a young pro, right? And the question was, how do I get my kids interested in golf? And the dad said, well, take your kids out golfing, make it really fun, make it light. And when they're at the peak of having their fun, then you leave.
Yeah.
So they still want more. But this is what he said, that was okay.
Yeah.
What he said was great. Is like, then you take your kids to the clubhouse, and then you have a soda with them, get a treat, and have some really good bonding time. So they won't remember the golf, but for the rest of their life, they'll remember that time with dad in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
And I thought that was such a great, valid point about quality and being present, which is the antithesis of what we're talking about, overwhelm, anxiety, and stress, is really having that. And every dad wants those moments, right? You get kind of emotional thinking about doing that with your kids.
Yeah.
But if you're stressed, overwhelmed, and anxious, you can't. It's impossible.
Been there, done that, Doug.
Oh, yeah.
Confession right here.
Yeah, we all have, right? I feel very comfortable speaking for all men. To what level, it's different. And I think you and I can attest that I hope we're better than we used to be at getting out of those things. And so I want to end this, Mark, with just giving the guys 5 things, maybe, random number, that they can do to help themselves get out of stress. We've listed more than 5.
Yeah.
But let's end this with 5 things that can help them get out of that state so they can be the dad in the clubhouse or anywhere else, having the soda and creating those magic moments, those memories for life with their family.
The first one for me, Doug, is anxiety and stress comes from wanting to predict the future state or the future, living in the future. So where am I right now, right? Do I have any challenges or problems in this very moment? Do you have a problem right now?
Not until you mentioned it.
Well, I don't have a problem here, sitting here right now.
Yes.
So because I'm here in the present moment speaking with you, of course there are other things that I've got to deal with. But being in the moment is extremely key for me. And that's really helped me to go, okay, where am I at? How do I feel right now in this particular moment? Have I got anything that I need to take charge of right this very second? And that gives me the opportunity to then do the next thing, which is to take a breath, as you said, and step back and get perspective.
Yep, that's what I was going to say is number 2. You took that from me. No.
Okay, what's number 3, Doug?
No, number 2, let's just say go back to breath. When I find myself future casting or I find myself worrying about something, we have a big event here. It's very important to us, the work that we do. So there's a lot of moving parts coming through. What I do is I go back to my breath. And that allows me to go, what that does for me is allows me to go into my body, right? And now going into my body allows me to be grounded and present. And I think that's a lot of people have this idea like, be present. I get it. But how do I become present? And to me, it's breath. Breath is an easy way. So I like to give the guys just a simple, those guys that haven't done breath work, and we have lots available, gentlemen, but box breathing is just an easy one for people to understand. So think of a box, guys. Each side of the box is 4 seconds. So 4-second inhale, 4-second hold, 4-second exhale, 4-second hold, and repeat that process. And if you do that for a couple minutes, it doesn't have to be long. It could be 2 minutes or it could be even 1 minute doing box breathing. Your central nervous system is going to calm down. Cortisol levels are going to go down. And now you have command of the situation.
Yeah. Exactly, which allows me to take charge and take ownership, and that's for me the third point is it's my choice, right? So I can choose my space, I can choose my priorities, etc. from this place.
Yeah. So number 4 for me would be decompress, and what I mean by that is create rituals around your situations. So for me, I talk about this. Really rare where we live, but we have a basement, a 1,300 square foot. It's my man cave, right? I have a lock on it. I love it. But I also
have a garage.
There you go. I have a sign as I go through the door into the house that says change of priorities ahead. It's a metal sign made like Etsy or something. I tap that sign like a lot of athletes do coming out of a tunnel or going into a sporting event to change my mental state. So I've taught my body to react in a completely different way. The guy driving 6 minutes can do the same thing. I have a guy that I work with, and he's choosing not to stop at the park. So I say, okay, great. This is what we're going to do. You're going to pick a song that's going to remind you of the man you want to be when you walk through that door. And we're going to have some hand gestures. We're going to put anchors in place so that you can do this each and every time. So when you touch the doorknob, everything shifts for you. And it works brilliantly. So you got to have those rituals, those anchors to get you into the frame that you want to be in, which will allow you to release overwhelm, stress, and anxiety.
Yeah. Are we on 5 yet?
We're on 5, bud. You started us off, send us home.
Okay. So for me, it leads from what you were just saying around putting a song on, and that is change our energy. Right, we can change the energy from stagnant to dynamic, for example, with a song. I could be seen driving along a highway singing to Bohemian Rhapsody at the top of my voice, and I've got a terrible voice, but I'll rock out. One of my favorite decompressions, my Friday decompression, is I have a Friday playlist. Starts off with Metallica and goes into Thunder by AC/DC and so forth. And so I'll literally kick my chair back, step up from my desk, put the music on full blast and rock out and change the energy. I move my body, I jump around, do all of those sorts of crazy things. And there'll be some guys who are much more serious than me who will probably be thinking, that's not for me. Well, then listen to Rachmaninoff. I don't care what you do, but music is a great thing to take ownership of and shift and change your energy, whether it be I need flow or I need some vitality or whatever it is. And that makes a massive difference to how we're received.
100%. I love it. Use music as an anchor, right?
Yeah.
And I use it all the time.
Me too.
My workout music's different than my get shit done music, like the sit at my desk and focus music.
Yeah.
Awesome tips as always, man. As I said, thanks for everything you do for the movement, for the men, everything you're doing here at the TPM Ranch for these men that flew from all over the world to be here, including yourself. It's no small ask. And what you're doing, you're changing lives. You're saving marriages, but you're also saving men. So thank you.
Living my purpose and mission. It's a privilege.
There's no doubt you are, buddy.
Thank you.
No doubt. Gentlemen, as I always say in the moment of insight, take massive action. Go back and write those 5 things down. And I invite you to re-listen to this or even bookmark it so you have something to go to reference. Mark and I didn't learn this overnight. right? These are things that we put in practice over years and decades of work and studying from other people, but also learning in the trenches ourselves so that we can change our states. And it doesn't happen all the time, but I can guarantee that I can speak for Mark that we're able to change our states much more readily than we did previously. And that allows us more enjoyable moments with the people we love, but also with ourselves. And that's what we want for you guys. We want you to get the most out of this life because you are meant more than for average. You guys are not meant to be here for average. Stop settling, make some changes, and we'll see you next time on the TPM show.